From Coros, it's the Apex Pro. I think it's time to talk about watches.
Ginger Runner.
What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner, here for a very fun and informative Ginger Runner review. It's a big one that's been a long time in the making. Today, we're going to be talking all about the Coros Apex Pro GPS-enabled sport watch from the makers of the Vertix, which I reviewed on the channel a while back. We'll also be comparing it to the Apex, which is the smaller, less capable brethren to the Apex Pro. We'll talk about that actually in this review because it's going to be a bit of a comparison, and hopefully by the end of the review you'll get a better understanding of what the Apex Pro is capable of, what sets the two apart, and which one I prefer. So first, Coros sent me these watches for review. As always, I am not paid to review these products. My opinions are 100% my own. There are no kickbacks. There's nothing exchanged other than just the watch itself. Everything in today's review is all my opinions about these watches. I will be reviewing it from the perspective of an ultra runner, a daily trainer, a weekend warrior, someone that just uses this on a regular basis, not necessarily in competition or at a competitive pro level. I have been holding off on this review for months. So I don't try to be the first one out there with the reviews purely because tech relies on a lot of trust for me, and if a watch or a piece of gear that involves batteries or computer connection doesn't operate almost to perfection, I want to make note of that. I have to say that this review is coming out a lot later than I expected for this watch because been doing pretty damn well. Both the Apex Pro and the Apex are good GPS-enabled watches. They also have an additional array of features, from optical wrist-based heart rate monitor, barometer, GPS chips, all that good stuff. But of course, there's differences between these two watches. The Apex Pro comes in at $150 more as a price point, $350 for the Apex, $499 for the Apex Pro. Some of the features that separate the Pro from the Apex: the Pro features a 40-hour battery life in regular settings mode with GPS tracking and all that. You can extend it with the Ultra Track mode to upwards of 90 to 100 hours. The regular Apex is limited to about 30 hours of regular GPS use and expandable up to 100 hours with the Ultra Track mode. The Apex Pro does have the oximeter sensor, which is very similar to the Vertix. It was one of those features I was hoping I would use a lot, dealing with altitude, going to Western states and seeing how my body adapted. I never really got accurate results and never ended up using the feature, but it's cool to see that the Apex Pro has it for those who maybe are doing some high altitude training or train in various elevations. The Pro has a much bigger optical heart rate sensor array, features some interesting touchscreen elements, which I'll get to a little bit in this review, weighs just a handful of grams more than the Apex, so really you're getting a couple of added features, but are those additional features worth the extra $150 price point? We're hopefully going to determine that in today's review when we start talking about the Apex Pro. So again, I've been using this watch for a number of months. It was my go-to for Headlands 100, not only training, but the race environment. I used it during the 100-mile week that I did at the end of December. Lots of things to say about this watch and Coros in general in today's review. Let's get on to the things I like and dislike about the Apex Pro and the Apex, starting as always with the things that I like. Battery life. By far, my biggest like with anything Coros has been the battery life, and I cannot overstate this enough, just how simple it is, how stress relieving it is to not have to plug your watch in every single day. There's so many watches out there now that do so many things, require apps incorporated into your cell phone, and they eat up so much juice. It is a habit to get into to charge your watch at night while you sleep. Again, I can't say this enough, not having to do that is incredibly freeing. So having a standby battery life of like a month and having a workout battery life of up to 40 hours, I actually found it to be quite a bit less, but still substantial, is an amazingly freeing, stress-relieving day-to-day bonus of this watch and the technology within it. My experience with the Apex Pro was just under quoted battery life. I was getting about 3-hour activity and 10% battery loss. So while advertised battery life is around 40 hours, I was getting anywhere from 30 to 33 hours in regular GPS usage. Again, this is also using the heart rate monitor while I'm sleeping and tracking throughout the day. So it's using every feature possible all day, every day, working out anywhere from 6 to 7 days a week. The battery life is fantastic. Of all the watches, technologies out there from Garmin, Sunto, Polar, that is what makes Coros watches stand out, and it is a feature not to be glossed over. I know people like all the bells and whistles and all the apps and all that stuff, but a battery that lasts longer than you care to imagine is awesome. Firmware updates. So this is something that Coros also does a bit above and beyond other brands out there. Because they're still a small brand, they're a new brand, you can tell that they are on it. They update the firmware in the watches. They update the software in the app. They're updating stuff all the time and adding new features to their watches. Firmware updates, satellite updates, feature additions, issue fixing. But just a heads up, the Apex Pro uploads and updates a lot slower than the Apex, as you can see in a side-by-side comparison. Not a huge issue, but certainly something to be aware of. It's refreshing when you encounter a problem with the product, a watch, or some sort of interactivity, watching it get fixed within a short period of time. There are constant updates that just better the products that you already have on your wrist. That says a lot about Coros. Being a new, small company, it is a pleasant experience as a consumer to be wearing a product like this on your wrist day to day for months, and then realize there are a lot of cool new features that just got plugged into the watch, such as night mode or track mode, features that you can immediately implement into your workout schedule and lifestyle that actually help the product become better. I think what I'm trying to distill this idea down to is that they're not always playing catch up with bugs. They're fixing problems and implementing new cool solutions. So that is why I have been enjoying the experience with the watch. Night mode. As I just mentioned, this is a new feature with this watch, and I haven't really seen it in other watches. I've seen it implemented in ways that don't make sense. But night mode is a brand new mode in the Apex Pro that allows you to turn on the backlight either during an activity or at night, and the backlight will stay at a very dim level in the background, allowing you to see the screen of the watch in less optimal lighting conditions for the duration of that workout or overnight. It's a feature that you can turn on and off at will. It also allows you to boost the light with the additional light button on the watch itself. But if you go back and watch my 100-mile training week video, you'll notice that some of the workouts that I did throughout that week were in the transition hours between daylight and nighttime. So it's really nice to not have to keep clicking the button on the watch to turn the light on. You can just flip it into night mode. It keeps a real nice dim backlight going. So you just pop up your wrist, take a look at the screen if you need any more information, boost the light if you need to, and once the workout is done, the light goes back to normal, turns off, saves battery life. It's a simple solution to a problem that I've had in many watches, from Cinto, Garmin, even to Coros in previous versions. So they added that feature. I like it. I've been using it almost every time I run, even at night. It's great. Trust. So this is one of those likes that I think I've included in other watch reviews in the past, but for this one, it's special. I'm not a huge data geek. I just want my data to be as accurate as possible, or at least as simplified as possible. So what's been great about not only the Apex Pro, but the Apex has just been their level of trust, being able to wear these watches day to day in all of my activities and forget about them. I know it's gonna track my activity. I trust that the data will be semi-accurate and it's gonna sync quick and efficiently. Both the Apex Pro and the Apex have been those watches where my experience with them has been positive. A lot of positive. The headaches when using these products are far and few between, and there is something to be said about being able to forget about them on your wrist while you're working out and just trusting that they're gonna work. That being said, it has not all been Cybertrucks and Dumbledores. There are some things that I still dislike about the Apex Pro and the Apex, and this is where these two watches begin to separate for me, and one of them stands out a bit stronger than the other. UI. So this is a fixable feature, maybe down the road in future iterations of the user interface, but for me, it takes time to really dig into the watch to find what you need. I have a specific number of items that I use on a regular basis, from the timer to the ultra track mode, navigation, screen lock. All these features are located in different places on the watch, whether it's on the smart menu or down multiple levels in the menu. I am constantly scrolling to find those regularly used items all the time. It'd be such a great feature to have a way to organize the items you use on a regular basis in like a hot list or a most frequently used items list that you can quickly scroll through, find those 5-6 items that you use on a regular basis, click them, activate them, turn them off, whatever you need, use those features, and then that's it. You just have your hot menu. Little hot menu. Here's a perfect example. On workouts, I would occasionally either accidentally stop a workout by pressing the button inadvertently, or I'd want to lock the screen or unlock the screen during a workout, whether I'm doing intervals and that sort of thing. You have to dig a couple menus deep to find the screen lock feature. It's easy to activate, but it's tedious to get to. So if you start a workout and you realize your screen goes to auto lock during workouts, you have to scroll through all these different menus and buttons to unlock it. It does take time. It'd be really nice if there was just a feature or a button press or something that would turn the feature on and turn it back off. So the things that you're using multiple times a week, it'd be just great. They were easily located, easily accessed, and not hidden behind multiple screens, scrolls, that sort of thing. Button location. The Apex Pro has 3 buttons. It has a light button, the back button, and that scrolling press button, which is actually really, really nice. The regular Apex only has 2. I had no problems with the 2 buttons on the Apex. I understand why they added the 3rd, more robust button here on the Apex Pro, but I find that the button locations can sometimes get in the way. Oftentimes, when slightly bending your wrist, this larger scroll button would activate, whether pushing up on a log or getting up off the couch, as simple as that. You'll end up depressing this button, which can activate, deactivate different features of the watch, and that has become problematic. It stopped activities mid-workout, and I don't realize it till a mile and a half later that my activity has been paused. Again, it goes back to activating that screen lock and making that feature really accessible, because sometimes you forget to turn that on, and ultimately you're pressing or depressing a button throughout your entire workout. You don't really realize it. There is a feature where you can determine which side of the watch you want the knobs on. Doesn't quite solve the problem of the buttons pressing when you don't want it to. Accidental presses are a real thing, and I found myself accidentally pressing buttons a lot more in the Apex Pro over the Apex. GPS. So the GPS has been fairly accurate. Again, you're comparing apples to oranges a lot of the times with these different GPS watches. You're strapping a couple to a wrist or one to each wrist, and you're like analyzing lines. Ultimately, if you were that big of a data nerd, they're all inaccurate. The GPS signal will just disappear from time to time, and it won't let you know that the GPS has disconnected unless you look at the little GPS icon at the lower right-hand corner of the watch and you realize that it's blinking looking for GPS signal. Then at some point it will chime back in and go, hey, GPS signal reacquired. And you'll sit there and go, when did it unacquire? And for how long? How this translated to an actual problem for me was that there were workouts where I would miss giant chunks of GPS because of the location of the workout. Maybe it's in a mountain that doesn't have very good signal, and I wouldn't know it during the workout. So the watch didn't inform me in a way that alerted me to the fact that the GPS was disabled or unconnectable. I want to know. I want to know when things are going wrong with the watch or the watch's readability, connectivity is altered. Also, make sure your watch is completely connected to GPS before you start your workout. One thing that I haven't really figured out why this is the case, it will not try to connect to satellites while you're in your workout if you start prematurely. There have been multiple times where I'm with a group of people who are all starting their workouts and I'm sitting there standing waiting for my GPS to connect, and I'll start the activity regardless because it does give the option start activity without GPS signal. It does not try to connect during the workout at all. You'll just have a treadmill workout appear on your Strava. Your results will not be accurate at all. An example, short run, everyone got 5 miles, I got 6.4 miles. It is nice to have my mileage boosted artificially, but ultimately it's inaccurate. And finally, customization. And this goes for both the Apex and the Apex Pro. I want more customization. I want to be able to go in there, create my workout modes from a mountain training mode, trail training mode, race mode. I want to be able to alter all the screens and have multiple modes that are fit and directed towards me. Yes, I can go into the preset modes and adjust them however I want, both visually with stats and whatever settings I want to put in there. But maybe I want to leave those as is and create 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of my own. That would be really nice. There's just not a lot of customization. Then even just the watch faces and being able to customize a lot of the settings in the watch, or creating my little hot list of hot used items. Hot. I want more customization. I have a feeling we'll get it someday. We just don't have it right now. But that's ultimately it for my dislikes right now with the Apex Pro and the Apex. In conclusion, these are very similar watches. They're at different price points. The Apex Pro has a few additional features. For example, that touchscreen, I just don't even use it. I hate touchscreen on my watches. It's something that's super tedious and bothersome. Never used it. So ultimately, does the Apex Pro stand taller than the Apex for me? I gotta be honest, while I have been using the Apex Pro a lot more than the Apex, I still find the Apex to be a really good value for your dollar. You're getting plenty of battery life. You're getting plenty of accuracy, a lot of the same features, maybe not quite as updated as the Apex Pro, but for $150 less, you're saving some cash. You're getting a really good watch, specifically the 46mm watch. I just really like it. I think both watches are really good. I think the additional features of the Apex Pro don't lean me into spending that extra $150. You would get the Apex for the price and the Apex Pro for the features. And I mentioned earlier that I'm not a huge data nerd. I do like to collect a lot of data and sort of analyze it for myself. While the app does a good job of collecting data, it's an interesting way to sort of look through it. It doesn't really tell me much. Coros has released this, which is their performance pod. It'll connect to the watches. You can use it on the back of your shorts while you're running, and it will give you a lot of data that the watches themselves cannot get you. So if you are a data nerd, you like to collect that sort of stuff, getting something like the pod as an additional add-on can help you collect that data. But What can you do with that data? Because I haven't really been able to offload anything other than GPX files through the app, and even then, that's a difficult process. Collecting the data and looking at the data is one thing. Exporting and analyzing the data is another, unless you're within the Coros ecosystem. Just thought I'd let you know. So let's get a little bit more specific here. Build quality, both watches are built very, very good. If you're familiar with Garmin watches, you're probably already going, they look, they feel, they handle the exact same. Of course, I love an all aluminum bezel, and it does feel really great. Barely feel anything on the wrist because it is so light. It's under 60 grams. I think the rubber strap quality of the Apex Pro is a bit better than the Apex, but again, those are swappable, easily change them out. Comfort-wise, it kind of goes in that same realm of both very light, both very comfortable. You won't feel a heavy object on your wrist that I really ran into with Cinto watches. They're very similar to Polar in that they're light, barely making an impact on your wrist. Fit, it's not really applicable. They literally have a strap that's adjustable to everyone's wrist. I will say that Kim has started to use the 46mm Apex, and she's loved it. Her wrists are different size than mine. She's been having no problems with this whatsoever. So for men and women, you're going to get the same fit out of both of them. Both going to be good. Price, I've mentioned this, $499 versus $349 for the 46mm Apex. I'm definitely leaning towards the cheaper price point, $350. You get a lot of watch for that price point. And yes, there's going to be a ton of watches out there that are a lot more, that give you a lot more features, like Garmin's apps and music and all that stuff. But remember, you're basically paying for battery life. That's the huge selling point with Coros watches, is battery. Both have really outstanding battery lives. When you try it, you'll recognize just how awesome it is to have. Apex Pro stands a little bit taller than the Apex in this realm. Still leaning towards the Apex, where it's all around usage. And finally, looks, not really applicable. I think they're both pretty decent looking watches. I think the all aluminum bezel of the Apex Pro looks a little bit better. Change out the straps, customize them however you like. That's pretty much it. So bottom line, is the Apex Pro a buy, try, or why? Or is the Apex the one I would go with? I think I've pretty much already explained this one. It is a buy on the Apex Pro, but I would actually say it's more of a buy on the Apex. If you've got the money for a $499 watch, you're in the market for a good GPS enabled watch, and you want those basic features that'll track and last a long time, the Apex Pro is great. If you're looking a little bit cheaper price point, still really good feature set and solid battery life, the Apex is the way to go. I know a lot of people are going to be leaning into the Garmin realm as well at that price point. There's a lot of watches that they offer. They will offer probably more features, more customizations, more apps, but the battery life they will not have. And so that is, again, the selling point of both of these watches, which is the point in the review where I turn the tables back to you. Have you used any Coros watch, specifically the Apex or the Apex Pro? In the comments of this video, let us know what your thoughts are, what your experiences are. That is how we can sort of get a nice generalized opinion of how these actually work in the real world. They've been great for me. How have they been for you? And that, my friends, is it for today's review. Remember, if you want any more information or you want to get a watch for yourself, I have links in the description that are affiliate links. They cost you nothing. They help the channel out. Use them if you want, and they'll take you right over to Running Warehouse, where you can get either the Apex Pro or the Apex, or just find out more information. If you like this review, make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell to be updated every time a new video is uploaded to the channel. Social media links. It's where social media happens. You can go to any of those links and follow along. And at the bottom there, patreon.com/thegingerrunner for as little as $1 a month. It also helps the channel, but you get cool perks on the back end, including like pre-registration for Tiger Claw, which opens Thursday. It might already be open by the time you're watching this. Hopefully it's sold out. Who knows? Regardless, thank you everyone. Appreciate you watching this video and subscribing to the channel. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.